Do you ever feel like something is missing from your healing journey? You've done a lot of courses, you've read a lot of books, maybe you've meditated and done a lot of breath work, but something is still off and you can't quite put your finger on it. Well, that was my experience, and I wanted to share with you my personal journey of awakening and really discovering and creating the E4 method. So let's dive into this. If you're somebody who is really ready to get to the next level, master consciousness, and have full awakening and maybe even enlightenment in this lifetime, you definitely want to listen to this podcast. Welcome to the Dr. Erin Show. May you live your truth. Hi there and welcome. Super excited to dive into truth today. We're going to dive into my own personal story of my spiritual awakening and discovering and creating the E4 method. We're going to dive into the universal law lesson this week, which is a law of action, knowing that whatever we create, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And then we're going to get into a spiritual mind treatment, aka spiritual prayer. So, hi there. I'm Dr. Erin, Doctor of Divinity and Master Spiritual Coach. And it is my heart's desire to bring the E4 method to the world. I've been in the industry for decades now. I've been on the spiritual journey really for 30 years since I had my stillborn son. And I always, just like all of us, we ask, what's our soul's purpose? And our core soul's purpose is to clear the soul. But then out of clearing our soul and doing our deep soul healing work, we have our soul's purpose, our life's purpose that is birth for us. And for me, it's E4. I really know that this is my one thing, that I'm here to live as a legacy of this lifetime. And so it's been developed over, the last decade or two, but it's finally coming out in very specific ways. I'm going to finally complete the book and do a TED Talk and really begin to have a circuit, if you will, to go on podcasts and all kinds of things around E4 method. So I just am grateful to take this deeper dive with you personally as it's helping me develop all these things behind the scenes. So here we go. So today I want to share my personal journey of awakening and discovering and creating the E4 method. So it all began years ago when I had my first big awakening. That moment for me was 30 years ago. It was the day after I gave birth to my stillborn's baby's body. And what they do back then, I don't know if they still do it, but when you have a stillborn, you have to go into full labor, right? I had a full term stillborn. And once you give birth to the body, they want to help you grieve and they have you bathe your dead baby. They have you dress your dead baby, take pictures with your dead baby, and then go home without your dead baby. And the next day I woke up and I was a little bit woo-woo, from the entire traumatic experience. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't get pictures with the right clothing because I had a bag that I had prepared for my birth of my baby. So I went back to the mortician's house the next day and I said, hey, I just want to get some pictures with my baby. And the mortician was like, oh, sweetheart, your baby's been in formaldehyde for 24 hours, but you can take as much time as you want. So he opened up this room in the basement, literally with red drapes coming down, and said, take as much time as you want. So I walked into this room and it was a huge room. And in the very middle of the room was this hospital bed with his little body on it. And I realized that I wouldn't be taking pictures of him with, cute little pictures of his baby clothes. So I kind of dropped the bag and walked towards the bed, and tears were streaming down my face. And I just remember that lump in my throat of feeling like, if there is a God, how could God be so cruel? And I felt so alone in that room. And as I looked at his little body and I was crying and just feeling so alone, I had a revelation and I realized that my baby's body was still here, but he was gone. And I realized he's a spiritual being, the true essence of who he is. And in that moment, I realized, the truth that I am a spiritual being. Obviously, I knew it conceptually before, but it landed on such a cellular level that day. And in that moment, I declared and I decided and committed to discovering my spiritual nature. I declared that I would have full revelation. I didn't know how, I didn't know what path, but I had the deep, deep desire placed on my heart by source, by God's source. And so that journey began. That was 30 years ago. And from that point, I had no idea where. I didn't have much money to do it. And I began to read and take the courses that I could afford. And I even began to meditate. And what happened over some time is, as I began to meditate and stuff, the whole universe began to open to me. And I began to have guides and angels and energies come through me and come to me. And I began to have full revelation of the truth of the cosmos. But it was like the inner world, I began to have this incredible enlightened and awakening experience. But my external world in the 3D world was still a mess. My relationships were still a mess. My life was still chaotic. And so I didn't really understand what was actually going on. And then what happened is in 2006, I found the documentary The Secret, and it began to explain universal, law of attraction. And I thought had figured it all out. I was very brought my ego into it, and I thought, oh, I can manifest. I began to manifest things and material wealth. And yet one of two things happened. I either began to manifest things but I still felt really empty inside because it wasn't really in alignment with my soul's purpose, right? Or I wasn't able to manifest. For example, my relationships were still very codependent and dysfunctional. So I was like, well, does this law of attraction really work or not? And that's when I began to dive deeply into the subconscious work. And I realized that awakening is not about positivity. It's about releasing the subconscious blocks. And that's when I began to really, really dive into that work. And I found science of mind and many other modalities. And I sat down with myself and mapped it out one day. Source literally came to me and I mapped it out one day with candlelight. And I just had a download. And what I began to come to as the download came straight through me from source is that the creative process and the creative process, really understanding that if you break it down into the steps, it really is what was birthed as the E4 method. And so as I began to understand the creative process and really broke it down into the four aspects of how we create, E4 method was birthed. And so through this weekly sequence, I'm going to dive into what is E4 method? What are the four steps? How does it impact us in the four areas of our life from money and career, relationships and love, health and vitality, and really a purpose and calling? So E4 method is a technology to remove energetic and emotional blocks from the subconscious mind via current life regressions, past life regressions, and then we flip and invert the process to quantum manifest our future highest self. So you may be asking, how does this apply to me? What's this going to do, right? Well, the thing is that after training over 10,000 coaches, right? I've worked with top celebrities, top CEOs. I've trained people for over 15 years now as far as making money as a master coach. And what I've come to realize is that people have the same core wounds, okay? Like regardless of age, gender, background, the same common root core things like abandonment, rejection, right? Low self-worth. It all comes down to identity. I think that people have a misconception of what healing work is, and they think that you had to go through, dysfunction or being beat by your parents or being in a war or major car accidents. The truth is, from a consciousness and from a subconscious perspective, we are born with trauma, right? It comes in from our lineage, right? Our ancestors went through famine, they went through wars, they went through everything. These are in our energetics, they're on our epigenetics, on our DNA. And so everybody has work to do. Everyone has soul clearing work. Everyone has ancestral trauma, and it's all relative, right? You could maybe be, a friend on the jungle gym as a little kid may have said something to you and you got super upset. And in those energetics, right, you declared a limited belief and a limited identity. So through this series, we're going to kind of dive into, what are the core wounds, what are the commands and things, and how does it actually work? How does the creative process work that actually had our limitation? And what is the creative process to create something new and free our DNA literally, so that we can live empowered lives and really restore our freedom of choice, freedom of expression, and really to become here for the highest good. So, as you are watching this, I invite you to just take a deep breath and think about what are those moments that defined you in this lifetime, right? There, we all have incidences or trauma incidences or times when we got really upset. Maybe it was a breakup in junior high or whatever it is that had us absolutely declare limitations. I'll never love again. Something's wrong with me. I can't trust. Love abandons, right? All these negative commands that happen in those high states of energetic times that define our lives. So what I didn't realize is in that mortician's house, looking at my, stillborn son's body, I made a very powerful positive command in there. I am going to discover and realize my spiritual nature. But what I also declared in there negatively is that I'm not enough. Love hurts, right? Something's wrong with me. I'm all alone. And these commands played out until I learned how to heal them through E4 method. So you can go back to last week's weekly soul work energetic update, and you can listen to the first segment on E4 method. I'll be going through the sequence for the next few weeks or so, and that is going to be something you can reflect on, refer out to your friends so they can understand. Because we all have friends that we can see their patterns, we can see their identity streaming through. I have a friend that no matter what you do, he will always, you can just feel his command. It's like, he feels like people aren't respecting him. So no matter what he does, it's always the same situation, whether it be in work, whether it's relationship, whether it be family. He has this story and this identity that people don't respect him. And he gets mad at everything, right? And I obviously have boundaries on him because he's a friend, but he hasn't done his core work. And that's a sad thing, is that we're all responsible for our work. And if we don't do our work, then we push people away. It's just natural, okay? So do your core work, whether it be coming into the school with me or however it is that you do your work. You got to get committed to doing your core work, or else you're going to have the same stuck negative patterns over and over again, because it's your identity playing out through your story, through the filter you see life through. And this is what E4 does. It releases that filter. You can no longer look and have this fake identity and this limited belief just playing out on rote like puppet strings in your life. You begin to take responsibility and you begin to awaken and you begin to have new declarations for your life. And you're not just the effect of your past creations. Okay, so this brings us to this week's universal law, which is a law of action. So the best way to really teach this law is understand Newton's third law, which is for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, so the universe is non-dualistic. It is one. Okay, so it's like a mechanical system. Okay, it's a unified energetic field. And we know science has even proven this now with the Nobel Prize for quantum entanglement. Okay, so basically, this is how your actions, anytime you even consider something, right, you are taking action or inspired action, just even your thoughts. It's creating every action you take, every sets in motion an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, so everything you do reflects out, it projects out and reflects back. Okay, so every non-action is an action in the realm of consciousness as well. Every harmonic action creates more harmony, but it also creates a chaotic aspect. Every chaos that you have creates chaos, but also creates some new revelation, right? It's all blessings. It's all blessings disguised. Okay, so I invite you to take inspired action, and that the universe will actually help you. Every action, even if you fail, even if you succeed, you will grow. Okay. So get out of your comfort zone and take bold action today. Okay. And that brings me to the spiritual mind treatment, AKA scientific prayer. Take our hands together, because there's something like 70,000 nerve endings, and we're connecting the right and left hemisphere of the brain. We're connecting the heart and the head in coherence, into unity, into oneness, and just taking a deep breath in. And I just know right here, right now, the healing of the past, the empowerment of the present, and the quantum healing and the manifestation of the future highest self. I recognize everything is right here and right now by the power of consciousness. I recognize there is no past, there is no future, there is only now. And I recognize that it's the same source that has created all limitation, all division in mind, is the same source that can create unification and the oneness and the all-powerful knowingness. I declare by the power of my word that all past is healed, all revelation, all awakening, all enlightenment, all ancestor healing, all past life, all current life, anything that has occurred is healed right here and right now by the power of consciousness. I recognize the empowerment right here, no matter what happens, no matter what emotions come through. We don't get used by the emotions. We use the emotions to birth more of our relative truth, coming to the ultimate truth, the I am, the oneness with all. I declare by the power of my word that the future embodiment, that there's no such thing as linear time, that there's only creation, and that I choose right now to embody the highest future version of myself, fully embodied, fully expressed, fully giving and serving and bringing value to the world. And I know this for each and every one listening today. I know right here, right now, that I am the true identity, that this life is a masterclass designed for the great revelation of the evolution of consciousness of the one divine mind. And so I simply release this as together we say, and so it is. And so it is. Okay, you guys, if you're not already in our school, in our community, you can grab the free Universal Law calendar below, get the Universal Law lessons every week. We're going to be adding also some distinctions for E4 on that Universal Law calendar. So it's also there for you as well. And you can come on in and get certified, accredited in E4 method, along with Universal Law and spiritual psychology coaching, or you can just come in to our community, into our membership, and be supported in your self-healing. Be supported in getting your mind right at a profound level. And I'm just knowing great success in all areas. Have a beautiful, blessed week. May you live the truth.